Hi everyone, welcome to episode 109 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar, thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings about their latest album, The Butterfly Effect. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to experimental folk songwriter and producer Joshua Burnside about his new EP, Late Afternoon in the Meadow, 1887.
The process of creation in any sort of artistic field is filled with frustration. Generally, some songs are just come and I write them and record them within a week, and it's done and dusted and everything's grand. Late Afternoon in the Meadows was one of those, whereas something like Rough Edges say there was something missing and something wasn't working about the way I was recording it. It's actually Woven was originally called Black Thread, and I recorded a version of it which took a long time to record because there was a lot of parts. There was keys, violin, guitar, vocals, percussion, all sorts going on, and I spent weeks and weeks sort of working on it. And in the end I just thought it was garbage, so I just had to scrap it and totally come at the song from a new sort of perspective, a new angle. So I can strip everything back and just have this organ sound which I made on a little synthesizer called the OP1, and just vocals, just like loads of layered vocals. And I was like, and then all of a sudden it made more sense and it sounded right, and it didn't need all the other stuff. It just needed to be simple and straightforward, and I needed to trust in the strength of the melody and the strength of the words alone could carry the song, as opposed to trying to fill in every little gap and make it all sparkly and interesting, and sometimes simpler is the way to go.
So check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe. It's free, and share it with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
Stock up on garlic bread because Peter Kay is back for his first tour in 12 years. The comedian and star of Phoenix Nights has 2 dates each in Belfast and Dublin next year. And staying with comedy, Kieran Bartlett will play a hometown show in the SSE Arena in Belfast next year. All the details are on the site, along with dates from Gaz Coombs, Billy Talent and Macklemore. We've had our hands on the new album from David Keenan. Crude gets 8 out of 10. The Dundalk-born artist has stripped his sound back on this third album, allowing his lyrics and songwriting to come to the fore. Standout tracks include Raving Toward Byzantium, an excellent collaboration with Junior Brother, and National Gallery Pop. We also have reviews of Back Home by Big Joni, the new EP from one-time Oasis guitarist Andy Bell, and Palomino, the 5th album from Swedish duo First Aid Kit. Read them in full at xsnoize.com.
Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings have released their fantastic new album, The Butterfly Effect. In this interview, Bruce and Russell talk about writing and recording the album through lockdown, their musical influences, playing live with their band From the Jam, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings. Hi Russell, hi Bruce, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hiya.
Hello.
So first of all, I'd like to ask how you're both are doing. You know, you've both been through the wars recently. Russell, you had a heart attack, and Bruce, you ended up in the hospital. So are you both doing all right? How's it going?
Yeah, touch wood. Russ is fitter than ever. He's looking better now. He's had a few replacement parts.
Yeah, pulled into the pit stop, had a few bits done. Yeah, we're good actually at the moment. You know, we just we're good. Yeah, it's the simplest answer. Yeah.
Good. You were able to get up on stage every night anyway, so that's the main thing.
Yeah.
That's why we can show some of the venues haven't got standard stair lifts.
Yeah, no, it's all right. We're doing all right. You know, we're doing. I went back to the gym yesterday for the first time, which was, I enjoyed it actually. I must say, yeah.
Good. Well, let's go back to the start. I always go back to the start. Can you both remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
for me, definitely it was the Beatles. Bruce, what about you?
Yeah, the Beatles and all the Stones, actually, and the Who. So,
And
I'll cut all bases now.
Yeah.
And can you remember what a particular song or album?
Oh Bloody Ah, single by the Beatles.
Wow.
1969. Remember it well. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would be My Generation.
Yeah, Obla Da. What does it mean?
Maybe it was a working title and they kept it in the end.
Yeah, you never thought of that, actually, Bruce. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Because when you're involved, you're behind the magic curtain, you get to see those things. You get to, because people go, oh, how did you come up with that really clever title? Well, basically, you read a bit of paper and it was next to you at the time and you saw it and you thought, that sounds good. I'll use that for now. That'll do for the time being. And that's how they come about, really.
Well, when did you both meet?
Blimey. But, I remember it. We actually met at Guildford Uni in 2006. Yeah, 2006. Yeah, Guildford Uni. Yeah.
I was in a band called Casbah Club. That's correct, Russ, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were on the same bill. Right? Casbah Club was myself, Bruce Watson, and Mark Pazicki, and obviously Russell's band or Rick's band were on the same bill. And I got asked, would I do a couple of tracks, get up and play a couple of songs with Russ and Rick, etc., which we did. We did Tube Station. What else was it?
And Feathers, yeah.
Yeah.
My favourite.
Yeah. I shit myself with that one. And it was great. It was very emotional because it was the first time, I think, in 28 years that I played with Rick on the same stage. And it was great fun as well. It was a lovely occasion, even though it was two songs. So we loved it so much, we decided to take it a bit further. Hence, from the jam.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very organic, the way it happened, because people often say, well, they used to years ago, they used to say, so how did you get the job? Did you audition? And it was like, no, fuck off. No, it wasn't nothing like that. It was just because it happened organically. It sounded like a right hippie saying that, but it was very organic the way it happened, and it grew, and then it gave everybody the chance to say, well, look, do you want in on this, rather than it be some sort of contrived, let's get a band together and then let's find a lead singer. It was nothing like that, So it was, it naturally happened, and I guess, here we are today, 17, 18 years down the line.
Bruce, it must have been great for you, as a vehicle to play those classic jam songs, because I'm sure you'd missed playing them over the years live.
Yeah, I'd missed them. I've kept myself busy, though, with, Stiff Little Fingers, for instance, for 15 years, man and boy. But it was great to have another opportunity to perform those, like you said, those great songs. It was still, as soon as we got on stage together, it was really fantastic. It was very, very fresh. Because I hadn't played those songs for so long, and the excitement was there.
Well, you've just released your third album, The Butterfly Effect. It's absolutely excellent. I've been really enjoying it. How does it feel that it's out in the world now?
A relief. Yeah, a relief. Because it was so long in the coming, because of the pandemic. And see, what happened was that we decided to do the album in, I think, late 2019, and then it was sort of put on pre-sale then. And then, the pandemic come along. So everybody had sort of, a lot of people had ordered it. And then there we were, the pandemic sort of froze it. So we couldn't get in the studio and record it. We had all these ideas kicking around. And then when we could get in the studio, then it was stop and start, getting in and out of the studio. And then manufacturing took a knockback because it took so long to get stuff to be manufactured. So when it actually came out last week, it was a relief. Plus, it was a proud, because we're proud of it. We wanted people to hear those tracks, and I guess to Bruce and myself, a lot of it was quite old for us, but it was brand new to people last week. But yeah, it was lovely because, well proud of it. Know that it's a good album, a good selection of songs, a great 12 songs, and that's how I feel. And I know Bruce feels the same.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, like Russ just said, we are very proud of it. It was a an enforced long meeting, or not meeting, but enforced period that we took over it because of, again, what Russell just said. But yeah, it's doing really well as well, which is fab.
I mean, you've already released 2 other albums, but when was the moment you realised, let's actually, instead of performing the jam songs all the time, let's write our own stuff? When did that happen?
That happened really sort of as our hand was forced with it, because I think we were starting to take a bit of criticism from the press really around about 2009 and 10. And then, it was almost like, well, why not? Because we had some great ideas knocking around, so we just did. And now it's like, yeah, it is possible. It absolutely is possible, Bruce. And now, to be honest, I would say, look, put that in your pipe and smoke it, for anybody. Yeah, because I do feel like that, because it's a fucking really good album, and I personally do feel like that, Now it's like, well, have we got anything to prove? No, we haven't got anything to prove at all. Again, they're just a great selection of songs. I keep saying that, but it was time to do that, and also it's really I've enjoyed that creative experience, that creative process. And Bruce and myself went into the studio at Paul's originally, at Black Barn Studios, at Paul's studio, which was a great thing, wasn't it, Bruce? Because Bruce and Paul were talking again, and it was a nice atmosphere. And then Paul played on the first couple of albums, which was a nice vibe. Yeah, it was great.
So what's the songwriting process like between both of you? Do you have a good time in the studio? How does it work?
Well, yeah, I mean, I might come up with an idea here, record it on my iPhone, fire it across to Bruce as an idea. Bruce will put a bass line to it, send it back to me. What do you think of this one? Yeah, I love it, Bruce. Let's work on it. And then we save that idea. Then by Bruce sending back an idea, gives it the nod and the wink and the tip to say, yeah, okay, let's keep that in the bag. And then that goes to the studio the next time we're there. And then we open up the little bag, so to speak, dip inside and start working on that particular track. So that's pretty much the process. Yeah. So we write the music first, pretty much with some melody. The melody line is always in there anyway, the vocal melody line. So we'll record the song and then we'll go back and put the vocals on, lastly. That's what happens with it. So really the test of there's nothing gets to the studio stage unless it's gone through the test, really. So people said, was there anything on the album that didn't make it? Well, no, because it wouldn't have got to that stage, because we don't have the big budgets like record companies do, to demo stuff, did we, Bruce?
No, exactly. I mean, we knew we had 12 good songs, and just talking about how it's been received, we had, and we didn't write to please anyone, we just wrote what we wanted to record and listen to, and if it appealed to the public, then great, but it wouldn't have been, a terrible loss if they didn't dig it. We know that.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with that, Bruce. Yeah.
The album's very uplifting considering the time it was recorded. I know you started some of it before COVID, but during COVID and after, and it's quite refreshing to hear a very uplifting album after what we've just come through. Yeah,
I think we're pretty, because we're very happy people. When we go in the studio, there's always quite that's predominantly our go-to setting, really. We're quite sort of, particularly when we get together, there was Bruce, myself and Mark Brzezicki, and we get together, and we've worked together for many years with Mark, and we sort of bring the best out in each other, really, musically and, humour as well. So I guess humour plays a lot, and there was quite a light energy in the room, and we're not the sort of doubt, although there was a lot of depressing shit going on at the time, and it really was. It's probably the worst sort of stuff going on in the world through my lifetime, and but we didn't let any of that stuff come into the writing of it. We were just glad to be together, because we would go to the studio and we would sit in each other's cars, and we'd all do a test. and then we'd come back with a negative, so we could come in the studio. So we were all in there. And it was a joy. But then when we were allowed all in the studio together, we were allowed to be amongst other human beings, which was we hadn't been allowed to be, or, were too scared to be, because we were led to believe that we were just going to drop down dead the minute we saw another human being. And so we were all really happy to be in the same room. So I guess that's the start of where the joy came from, really. Yeah, if I'm honest, that's where it was for me. Yeah.
So the butterfly effect is the idea that small things have non-linear impacts on a complex system. But I'm guessing there's a simpler reason behind the album, or giving the album that name, is there?
There is, yeah. And it's about our influences, really. That when I was sitting on there's a funny story, but we won't go into that particular story. But many years ago, and Bruce was laughing. But no, it was funny. Well, Mark Brzezicki was doing an interview with Gary Brooker many years ago in Russia, and he was given an interpreter. And they said to Gary Brooker, "So what's your first memory?" And he said, "Well," and he's a very funny man, Gary Brooker, and also Mark Brzezicki is one of the funniest storytellers there is. And Gary Brooker turned around and said, "Well, my first memory." And they meant musically, but Gary turns around and says, "Well, sitting on a blanket, it was a sunny day, and I've got a bottle in my mouth." And it just made us laugh, because that was Gary Brooker, who sadly passed away last year. And really, and I know, because Bruce has turned around to me, and we talked about it often, like when watching Dr. Feelgood 1974, Bruce did. Yeah. Well, I was listening to George Harrison, Oh Bloody, Oh Bloody, and the Beatles stuff, around that period of time, and also My Sweet Lord around, 70, 71. And they all had influences on Bruce and myself. And when we're playing and people say, "Oh, it's very much like, it sounds like the Small Faces," or "It sounds like the Beatles." Well, that's because we were influenced by these things that we didn't know we were getting influenced by over the years. And I think if you move to America, you're going to adapt an American accent, if you can understand it from that perspective. And I think so. It was a simple thing, really. The butterfly effect, we were all influenced. They had these massive influences on us. And then when we're in a studio recording a song, we don't go out to try and sound like something at all, because it's just not within us. But it's had a knock-on effect from down the line and over the years. So that's really what the album title come from.
Yeah. Good. I was going to get into some of the influences. I mean, there's so many brilliant songs on the album, so let's start talking about some of them. I love the opening track, Electronic Lover. There's definitely a nod that the Beatles come together in there in the beginning.
Well spotted. Well, again, that happened. I remember I'm actually sitting about 3 feet from where that started, that song. And I remember, because we were in here at lockdown, and Bruce came down for the day, and I had this sort of idea, this guitar riff, and then Bruce threw in a bass line against it, and then it was captured like that, and we just kicked it around in the studio, and then it came out. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great track to open the album. In September, XS Noize was very lucky to premiere the video for Lula, and we're very happy, because it's a great track. It's a real earworm. Really catchy. From what I'm led to believe, the song's about a spoilt woman who seemingly has everything yet has nothing. Mm-hmm. Is this song about anyone in particular, or is it fictional?
Fictional. Yeah, it's not about anyone. No. I've been asked that a few times. No, it's not. But it's just, we've all met people like that, and I guess whether you're man or woman, or whatever the political term is these days, if you say man or woman, we've all met people that have got loads of stuff and money and everything, and but they just don't realise it, and got everything, but they got absolutely nothing, sort of soulless, really. So I guess it's about a spoiled person, really. That's what it's about, But it just came that way, didn't it, Bruce? Really, it was just, and it just song wise, it just sort of works. It was a simple thing, because Bruce and myself worked on that song and recorded it. We did an acoustic version of it to start with. And so we knew it was a good song. It stands the test to do that,
Yeah.
When you're writing the songs, Are they always fictional, or you draw from different places? Maybe books.
Well,
things you've watched?
yeah. Personally, I draw on personal experiences. So I must have met Lula somewhere down the line. But, on other stuff as well. I don't think I'm clever enough to write, fictional characters. But I guess they're all personal influences really down the line.
My favourite song on the album is Rain. It's a beautiful song. And it was only after a few listens, it was sort of had it on in the background. And then I just went, right, reminds me of Riders on the Storm.
Right.
But the wee sort of piano bit by the Doors. It's a really fantastic track. What can you tell me about the genesis of that?
Do you remember the demo in that, Bruce?
Well, not particularly.
Right, we demoed that at Water Rat, really. And,
right, going back there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, that one, we demoed it at Water Rat Studios in Woking, and then we came home that night and it was pissing with rain. And I remember sitting out, looking out of the window, and it was the first time that I've written lyrically to what I'm actually visually looking at. And I was looking out the back gardens, across the gardens on and it was evident that we were going to be in for the night because it was pissing down with rain. So it was sort of like a book and a movie, knocking on the door and all that, So that's pretty much. And then Bruce and myself would write like that and recorded it. And then we sent it to Andy, our keyboard player, who's just phenomenal. And he's put on, there's a rain stick on there and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was a good experiment vocally for that. But it's a nice song talking about that one. Yeah, I've not heard it for a little while, but yeah, it's great.
And She Said is another belter. A mandolin solo in any song is always great, but it's very rare these days. Off the top of your head, can you think of any other famous songs with a mandolin solo?
Yeah, but what's his name? Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart, yeah.
Maggie May.
Maggie May.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah.
Or you could have Norwegian Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Losing My Religion, R.E.M.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. It's loads.
Yeah. But it's very rare these days to hear it. So it was a real treat to hear it, coming in.
Well, didn't you say to Al, our producer guy, that you wanted a piano on it?
Yeah, that's right, Bruce. Yeah, because he said, do you want a piano? I went, well, look, do you know any boogie woogie players? He went, well, I do. He went, but I play a bit of mandolin. I think he was sort of like pecking at us for that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I went,
it was a bit of a drastic change, isn't it, from a upright piano to a mandolin?
Yeah, because we had that sort of, upright Joanna sort of, like a, old Tommy Steele piano. But yeah, and he went off and when he played it back, he sent it back to us. It was like, oh yeah, because he's great because he plays in a band, Blue Eyes to Coal, and I've known him for a long time. The producer, I've known of him, but he comes from the Levelers studio. That's where. So he had all those sort of instruments around him. So he was surrounded by that type of music. So he's the Levelers producer. So he produced Level in the Land and all that. So when he said he could play mandolin, we went, well, in you go, son, you got the gig. And he come back with that.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that bit. We've been looking it up live at sound checks. Huh?
Yeah. It's become my favourite bit. And I hear it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Have you played it live yet?
No, it's sound check we have, but we're just working it in at the moment. We will do, though.
Yeah, I think it would be brilliant live. Which song on the album was the most challenging to get right?
I guess Electronic Lover, for whatever reason. Because we haven't played a lot of these songs live. We've recorded them. So what you have to do is you have to sort of record them and then go back and learn them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it, that's basically it. So I guess because there's a lot of sort of overdubs in it and stuff like that. But, most of them are all pretty simple, really.
And what song on the album do you both feel most connected to?
Bruce?
Well, connected to. I mean, I would just say I like She Said. We just discussed.
Yeah. For me, it's sort of like Rain and Lula, really. Yeah, because if I remember rightly, when we recorded, Rain, Lula, and Wanted were done in a 3-day session, so they all came together sort of at that same sort of time, and they just remind me of each other, really. Yeah. So I'm connected. Yeah, I mean connected with them all, really, but the ones that connect, Rain really, and Wanted, Rain, Wanted, and Lula for me. Yeah.
And when you finish an album, when you finish writing it, do you still think about the album as a format where the songs have a proper run order, like side 1 and side 2, proper old school?
Yeah, we did that, Bruce. I mean, we sort of worked on that ourselves. I think what we looked at was it's always like picking a set, really. The opening song, the middle of it, and the end. And then you can sprinkle what you like around it. So we both agreed on Electronic Lover for the opener, and we both agreed on the last track, and then the rest of it, the running order, sort of worked itself, really. So I think that's sort of how you always go with because you've got a few seconds to impress some people, listeners, if that be, and I thought. Electronic Lover was what does it. It sort of lays your stall out. Do you know what I mean? Without laying your ace card on the table. So yeah, so Electronic Lover. I think.
What we had to consider was, the minutes, wasn't it? Which was a bit of a drag, with a bit of technical thing about how many minutes side 1 can be and how many.
Yeah, we had to.
We had to balance them up because it was heavily weighted on. The side 1 first of all. So some of it was out of our control in terms of the ideal playlist. But like Russ said, start, middle, and end were fine anyway. They remained like that. But the other tracks were juggled a bit time-wise to get. It's a bit technical, a bit above my head really. But to get the loudest out of the vinyl you can get, etc., can only be so many minutes each side.
Yeah, that's right.
Listeners are still there. Good luck.
Hello.
Where you gone?
And you're currently on tour with the Buzzcocks, so how have the shows been going?
Right. Yeah, really good. Yeah, we're back out. We're out in Gillingham tomorrow night, and then Leeds, Norwich, and then onwards.
Yeah. But we're up and down all over the country, basically.
Yeah.
And what songs from the Butterfly Effect are getting the best response live?
Well, we're playing Lula at the moment, which is great because it's just about, in the charts at number 5 in the Heritage charts. So we're playing that. And we're going to play She Said as well, bring that in, and possibly Circles as well off the album because, we just think that's sort of right up and in your face track, to play. So the album's just come out. It's always good to let people give it a bit of time to hear it first and then present it, rather than present it cold. Gets a better effect that way,
So what's your favourite jam song to play live in the set?
Wow.
Rose?
Well, it would vary, wouldn't it? In the crowd for me at the moment.
In
the crowd.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Yeah, mine at the moment, I guess To Be Someone is at the moment, but like Bruce says, it moves daily. It moves with your mood, really, and it moves. Yeah, so but To Be Someone today for me.
And Bruce, going back in the day, can you remember the first time you heard the jam on the radio, and how did that feel?
It was more heard it on the jukebox in our local pub. As I walked in, the guys had put it on the jukebox, and that was a real buzz. We thought we'd arrived because we'd been played on the jukebox.
And what song was it?
Oh, fucking hell.
It's in the city, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been our first single, yeah, of course. In the city.
Yeah.
And Russell, can you remember the first time you heard the jam?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it was the Inner City album.
Was it?
Yeah, it was in the City album, yeah. And then I remember, funny enough, I remember the Modern World album more so because I had a summer of listening to the Modern World album. And I really liked it, I really liked the album. I particularly like Live from a Window. stuff like that. But yeah, I remember the energy. Remember. I was lucky to be, part of that and listening to it as well as loads of other people at the time, and. But I was very much into music myself anyway, into a lot of bands. The Stranglers were out at the time, the Buzzcocks, as we talked about, and just, Top of the Pops meant something. Music meant something then, It wasn't this disposable sort of trash. I mean, I've got to be honest, a track came on the radio. If I'm allowed to say this, the Radio 2, they've just got rid of, Steve Wright in the afternoon. Now I listen to this new fella, and I'm thinking, what's all this about? And I'm not. They played this Taylor Swift track. Well, it didn't. I didn't identify with it whatsoever as it being anything to do with music. I had to turn it off because it irritated me so much that the sort of I don't know. It was just it did nothing for me. And I wasn't thinking, am I old? Well, yeah, I am old, but I do know what a melody is, and I'm thinking somebody sat and produced that and it didn't irritate them, and they must have sat and produced it for 3 or 4 days, and I just don't get it. I don't get why people aren't writing songs the way that, they try and reinvent the wheel where you can't,
And weirdly, Taylor Swift's the biggest selling album this year.
Yeah. Does that make me right or wrong? It just means that I don't like it. But I find that sonically, it's just unpleasing sonically. I believe that it's almost like noise warfare. Literally, I remember I was in the car the other night coming back from a long drive, and I had to turn it off and was talking to myself about it and thought, this is just shite. Am I sitting on the fence enough about that?
No. Once again, you've ruined your Christmas present.
Oh yeah, you know my taste, Bruce.
The best of Taylor.
But it's true. We sit and listen to stuff. Me and Bruce have sat and gone and listened to it. The other night we were travelling back from somewhere, another show, late night show, and we were travelling back and they had a full programme on the Beatles, right? And we were listening to some really early stuff in Hamburg, and I'm not saying you've got to sound like the Beatles. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm sure there are some great artists out there, but all these big sellers, and this Taylor Swift thing, and I mean, it's just gone whoosh right over my head as a writer, maybe, I don't know. I just don't get it. Who's buying it?
my daughter. And the thing is as well, there's probably each song, there's probably about 10 writers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way it works these days.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, you'll find, somebody said it to me years ago when McDonald's started putting the music inside the toys to get with a Happy Meal, that was it when it was game over, the music was so disposable. And I'm really pleased that when we've got physical formats like that we have, then we're selling physical formats. And it turns up and you look at it, and other people have been saying to Bruce themselves, go, I listen to, the physical product. I've had the sleeve notes out, and, they really look through them rather than you get a download and you don't know what you've bought. You just bought some thin air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you get a proper package, don't you, basically?
Yeah.
Like vinyl and that, you get a glossy photo, lyrics inside or whatever. It was kind of an event to go out and buy the latest, whatever you were into.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the enjoyment about listening to music, especially, for maybe that.
Yeah, you got the record on or whatever, and you're looking at your album in your hands, digesting it.
I mean, vinyl, there's just massive backlog on vinyl. It's a 10-month waiting list from order to production. It's just crazy at the moment because everybody wants vinyl. Yeah. And then the vinyl plants have just pushed all the prices up because they know that. So, it's like 4 times the price what it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
If you were to recommend one of the Jams albums to anyone who's never heard the band before, what album would you tell them to start with?
Rose?
Probably All My Cons.
And All My Cons, and it's 44 years old today. How about that?
Oh, is it?
Wow. Is it?
Yeah, 44 years ago today, Brucey.
Finally. Time for the Oval team.
Yeah, it is. 44 years ago today it came out.
Wow, how do you know that? Who told you that?
Oh, listen, I'm a hive of information. You know that.
Yeah.
I got my finger on the pulse, man. I'm down with the kids. Yeah, it's all over the internet. That's why on the internet. Yeah,
it's internet.
Yeah.
I mean, fans would love to see the Jam reform, and I'm sure you get that asked that question every day, Bruce. But is there a band you're a fan of for both of you? Is there a band both of you are a fan of that you would like to see reform?
Well, the Beatles would have been good.
Yeah.
That would have been a good shout for me.
Yeah, and I had one in my mind the other day. I'm trying to think who it was, and it would have been Talk for me. I'm a big Talk fan and was, but sadly Mark Hollis died a couple of years ago, and he was great friends with a good friend of ours, Mark Felton, the harmonica player from wonderful Mark Felton from 9 Below Zero, and he played on the Colour of Spring album, and but for me, the Colour of Spring. It just did it for me as an album. So they would have been great to get back together. I think I'll second that, what Bruce said about the Beatles, yeah.
Spirit of Eden, it's probably one of my favourite albums. We'll colour the
as well. Great. Mark played on that as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's an incredible album. I mean, it's just completely unwritten. It was almost written on the spot in the studio, you know. Yeah. But Colour of Spring is my favourite album from that period.
And Bruce, you were in Belfast's very own Stiff Little Fingers for 15 years, recording 4 albums with them. How did that come about?
It just goes back to the early days of the Jam and the early days of Stiff Little Fingers, that we were on similar live circuits, and invariably our paths crossed here and there. And one particular night, they were staying in the same hotel, and so we struck up a good, drinking friendship, I suppose, at the time. And we kept in touch, and then when Ali McMordy decided that he wanted to leave the band, they asked me, would I be interested, because I wasn't doing a lot at that time. And 15 years later, there we are.
Quite a few drinks later and all, wasn't it?
I had to get out, it would have killed me. Playing pub or puff every night does accumulate.
Oh, Mr. PC.
So I take it the both of you aren't drinking as much on the road these days?
I don't drink at all. I gave up 25 years ago.
I mean, that's a side thing that is in my favour. The whole band, apart from me, don't really drink. They might have a tipple at home, but it's good for me as well. It's much healthier, as we got to realise,
If you were both to go back and relive one musical moment from your career, what would it be?
Well, for me, I think, I don't know. I mean, we just got some wonderful memories. And my memories for me is me and Bruce and Mike. We played Sydney, sold out show in Sydney, Australia, 2018 or 19, I think it was. And it was bonkers anyway, because it was just great weather while we were out there. We were on a roll out there. We were selling out everywhere, and and then Leo Sayer burst in through the door, like you do, and it just made me realise what a nutty world we live in. Do you know what I mean? And Bruce went, "Did that just happen?" He came in. He had selfies. Yeah, he had selfies with you and me and Mikey, didn't he? And then he went.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surreal moment, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah, it was, and it was like, wow, this is just mad. You had to be in our world to realise how mad it can be, and yet it was our world. Do you know what I mean? So when people say, but it's a bit bonkers in it, and then I like coming home and sweeping the leaves up in my garden. It's quite a normal thing to do. Otherwise, if you didn't do normal things like that, you'd start believing in your own magic, really, which is the downfall of every magician. And you'd start going mental. But so for me, that was like Sydney, and also when we played in New York, Bruce, in 2008, that was like pretty special. Debbie Harry was there, and it was pretty.
Yeah, Clem.
Clem was there, Clem Burke as well. Yeah. But yeah, it was
All these
great.
names we keep dropping on the floor.
Yeah, dropping quite a few. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was all been great, and me and Bruce have been lucky enough. We've been around the world, a few times, and had some great experiences together. And
we've been very lucky, haven't we?
We're very
sights and sounds that we've seen and still enjoy. I never take anything for granted. We work hard at it, and we get the rewards, I suppose.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. We've had some great. We were down there on Bondi Beach, and it was Rick and Bruce and myself and the crew, and we were all on Bondi Beach. And I looked round and just thought, "This is mad." You know what I mean? This is Bondi Beach in Australia. And everybody's down there surfing, and there's us down there visiting the beach, and it was just great. Great memories, and also, it doesn't have to be in Australia. We've had some great times. I'll tell you where we did play, and Ulster Hall in Belfast. It was just a fantastic gig. We played there about 5 years ago. It was brilliant. Loved it.
Great venue. I was there the other night, actually.
Well, yeah, lovely venue.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
What about you, Bruce? What's your musical moment?
Musical moment? I mean, in terms of, well, this is probably not really the answer you want, but I'd have said like going underground was quite a buzz, because we were in the States on tour and going down badly, to say the least. And when the record company phoned up and said, "You've gone straight to number one," we said, "Right, well, let's get a flight out of here and go home and enjoy it."
Yeah, you did Top of the Pops, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, it was a buzz, because we treated ourselves. We flew back on Concorde, which was an amazing flight. We did Top of the Pops.
Wow. Right.
Those were the days.
Just a few more questions, guys. I like to ask my guests the following questions. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
What album or song brings back the best memories? I think I've already mentioned it. I think I've mentioned The Colour of Spring. And I got into that in around 86. And it was a bit of an awkward time in my life. And I listened to that, and it does it for me. And if I listen to it today, I can go there. Do you know what I mean? Well, you do know what I mean. I know you're a music fan. And I listen to stuff like that, and I can go right down that avenue. So for me, The Colour of Spring, talk.
I'd go back a wee bit further with Dean Martin, That's Amore, only because it was one of my dad's favourite songs. And also it was played at my wedding. It was the first track.
Yeah,
so, lovely it was.
Yeah.
Out of all the music in your collection, which artist or band do you have the most albums by?
Well, I couldn't say.
I guess the Beatles and the Jam for me.
Yeah, it would be the Beatles, basically. Pretty much.
What do you think of all the new remastered, remixed versions of the Beatles that they're putting out?
Yes, I mean, we were talking about this last week. I mean, it's great if you're a collector and you want to spend 150 or 160 quid on something that they're money spinners, really, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they are. Because I was listening to Revolver again last week, and it's just a great album. It's a great collection of songs, but that's a lot of money to somebody's gone just because they've gone and remix. We can do that. Anybody can go back into any collection and remix it and remaster it and play with it. I just think it's a bit of a money spinner, really.
Yeah, it is, from the label. And obviously, I do reap some reward from remastering as well, so financially. But, the product is dear, but no one's forcing you to go and buy it. So
no, that's right. Yeah, sure.
Last one, guys. Which song or album is your guilty pleasure?
Is it what?
Your guilty pleasure.
I think the Bee Gees, really, because I'm just banging to the vocals when they used to a cappella vocals. The Bee Gees stuff, I can sit and watch them, just with an acoustic guitar and the three brothers. I'm into harmonies, I'm into melodies, and that just does it for me. And years ago, I would never have told you that.
No.
I'd have been too embarrassed. But, that for me, it's the Bee Gees.
What about you,
I'll pass on that.
Well, the Bee Gees, I mean, their earlier stuff's amazing as well, you know, Massachusetts and stuff like that. And
yeah,
before they were really, you know, big.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I just thought they're just a joy when you watch them. Some of the things you think it's just purely because they're three brothers that their vocals work like that, because, you know, genetically that's how they came about. And then you just listen to, I love listening to like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and all that, you know, and just to the vocal harmonies on those things. And again, the Eagles, dare I say, you know, listen to that stuff. When Hell Freezes Over, you know, the acoustic version, when they did that.
That's a good one. I wish I'd have thought of that.
You know, you think of that and you just think, wow. You know, and now what's great about that is that the Eagles, you know, obviously a few of them have left and a few of them have died. And now it's the sons are coming in and taking over. And they're proudly talking about that it's about the music and not the members. Of course, it's about the music and the songs. And they're doing such a great job. There's sort of 5 or 6 of them on stage. I saw a gig the other day with them all in and playing. And I just thought it was just brilliant. I thought they were doing such a great job, you know, musically.
So, guys, is there anything you would like to mention before we wrap up? Is there anything coming up in the near future?
Well, we're on the Beat Surrender tour at the moment, which finishes really in sort of the spring of next year. But go and buy the Butterfly Effect, and it's under Foxton and Hastings. And then, you know, go and enjoy. Yeah, it's in the Heritage chart at the moment. But go and enjoy, you know, listen to the tracks of the album. Enjoy it as it was written for.
Well, thanks very much. Much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
no problem. Russell,
nice
Bruce, thanks very much, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Guys.
Okay, mate.
All right,
Bye,
take it easy. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Keep well.